Education is changing, not slowly, not evenly, quietly. A few years ago, learning meant effort, struggle, repetition. You had to search for answers, sit with confusion, and work through uncertainty. Progress was slow, but it was yours. Every mistake forced you to think. Every gap pushed you deeper. You didn't just get answers. You built them step by step. Now answers come instantly. Explanations adjust to you. Lessons adapt in real time. You don't chase knowledge anymore. It comes to you, already structured and simplified. It removes uncertainty before you even feel it. It feels like progress, but something changed. Here's the question: are you learning faster or just thinking less? And more importantly, do you still know how to learn without it? Today, you'll see how AI is reshaping education, why personalized learning might be the most efficient system ever created, and why it may also be quietly changing how your mind works beneath the surface. By the end, you'll understand the hidden trade-off, the one that decides whether AI makes you smarter or more dependent. Let's start with what everyone agrees on. AI makes learning easier. Struggling with math, it explains step by step. Confused about science, it breaks complex ideas into simple patterns. Stuck on a concept, it adapts until you understand it clearly. For the first time, education adjusts to the student, not the other way around. That changes everything. Students who once fell behind can now keep up. Difficult subjects become accessible. Learning becomes faster, smoother, more predictable. You spend less time being lost, less time repeating mistakes, less time wondering what to do next. It feels like a perfect system, but there's a detail most people ignore. When something becomes easier, effort disappears, and effort is where learning begins. If every answer comes instantly, what are you actually doing yourself? No delay, no resistance, no real struggle. At first, nothing feels wrong. In fact, it feels better, but something shifts underneath, and you don't notice it until it's already changed you. Here's how that shift happens. You stop solving problems from scratch. You start checking answers that already exist. You stop asking deeper questions. You start expecting complete explanations before you even try. A task that once required thinking becomes confirmation, and slowly your role changes from active learner to passive receiver. It doesn't feel dangerous. It doesn't feel like a loss. In fact, it feels like improvement. You get results faster. You make fewer visible mistakes. You feel more confident in less time. You begin to trust the output more than your own reasoning. But confidence without effort can be misleading, because what disappears is not just difficulty, it's friction. And friction is what forces your brain to adapt, connect ideas, and build understanding. Friction is what creates depth. Remove it, and thinking becomes optional. Many students believe something simple: if I understand the answer, I'm learning. But that assumption is incomplete. Understanding an answer is not the same as building it. When AI explains everything, you skip the hardest part, the part where your brain struggles, connects ideas, and forms its own structure. That process is slow. It's uncomfortable, but it creates real knowledge. It creates memory. It creates intuition. It creates the ability to solve new problems without help. Remove that process, and something subtle changes. You become faster, but not deeper. A student using AI can solve more tasks, But can they solve them without assistance? Can they explain the logic without support? Can they adapt when the problem changes? That's the real test. And most people don't notice when they've already crossed that line. The moment when understanding becomes dependent on the system. But the impact goes further. AI doesn't just change how you learn. It changes what you expect from learning itself. Why memorize information if it's always available? Why practice repeatedly if results can be generated instantly? Why sit with confusion if clarity is always one step away? The system starts shaping your behavior, not through force, but through convenience. And convenience is powerful. It rewires habits slowly, almost invisibly. You choose speed over effort, clarity over uncertainty, answers over questions, results over understanding. Each decision feels small, but repeated daily, they reshape how you think. They shape what you avoid. They shape what you rely on. They shape how long you stay with difficulty. Independence becomes optional, and once something becomes optional, it often disappears. Most people won't notice this change until they face a problem with no guidance, no system, no hints, no instant explanation, and suddenly something feels missing. So does AI make students lazy? Not exactly. It creates a split. One group uses AI to avoid thinking. The other uses AI to extend it. Same tools, same access, completely different outcomes. The difference is not intelligence, it's intention. One asks, "What's the answer?" The other asks, "Why does this work?" The second question changes everything, because AI can generate results, but it cannot build your understanding. It cannot struggle for you. It cannot create your reasoning step by step. It cannot form your judgment over time. Only you can do that, and that's where the advantage begins. Here's what most people miss. The future of education isn't about knowing more. It's about thinking better when answers are everywhere. When every student has access to perfect explanations, information loses value. Everyone has it. So what matters instead? Judgment, direction, the ability to question what looks correct, the ability to doubt what feels easy. Imagine this. Two students complete the same task using AI. Same answer, same quality, same speed. But one understands the reasoning. The other only follows the output. At first, they look identical. Over time, they separate. One adapts to new problems. The other waits for guidance. One becomes independent. The other becomes dependent. And the system won't tell you which one you are. So what's the hidden trade-off? AI doesn't just personalize learning. It personalizes how much you think, how much effort you apply, how independent you become over time. And what fades first is always the same: effort, struggle, friction. Used correctly, it accelerates growth. Used passively, it replaces it. And the line between them is invisible. So ask yourself, are you building understanding or just receiving it? Because the future of education won't be defined by smarter systems. It will be defined by whether humans still think for themselves, in a world where thinking is no longer required. If a system guides how you learn, how long before it decides what is worth learning, what is relevant, what is ignored, and eventually, whether you question anything at all? Most people think they're learning faster, but they're just losing what made learning real. Which one are you? Event classification, cognitive assistance, causation source, learning systems, control status, increasing, monitoring continues.